Now, in order to download the database, you will need a compatible transfer drive.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Deltabase, the show where I sit down and chat with other Transformers creators and discuss their personal journey with the franchise and what they're up to in the creative space. Today's guest knows what's best in the franchise, a Generation 1 fan at heart, and in the last couple of years, a reviewer of the Studio Series 86 line. Retro Reissue, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a thrill, an absolute honor to be here. I just hope I can be lucid and give some good answers that make sense.
Now, I think you're going to have good answers, and I think that's because, again, like we just said, you know what the good stuff in Transformers is with Generation 1.
Well, you flatter me, sir, because and I've not been, I've not been collecting Transformers very long, and until I would say 2022, I had not been collecting Transformers at all. I'm a really recent returning collector because
Mhm.
I haven't been collecting toys or Transformers for the majority of my adult life, and I'm in my mid 40s now. So it's a kind of there's a lot of trepidation that goes on when I'm giving opinions online because I kind of feel like a newcomer to the space a lot of the time.
I just think, well, given your age, you have more wisdom than most of us.
Well, one would hope so, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure some of the things I do on a daily basis.
Well, that kind of leads me into my first question here I wanted to ask you. In one of the very first videos that you ever published on your channels, you talked about the Transformers movie being kind of the peak of your Transformers interest when you were younger. You called it, kind of the best of Transformers, but that at the time there were certain figures that weren't released in the UK. Specifically, you spoke about Perceptor. And so my question is, what was that like as a kid, falling in love with Transformers through the movie, but not being able to find those figures on the shelf?
That's a great question. And it's something that I think about weirdly quite a lot because there's some regret there, some frustration, obviously, that kind of where's this figure? He's a character in the movie, he's a character in the cartoon. Why isn't he on the shelves? But I look back now with a kind of fondness as well because those characters were mysterious and there was
Mhm.
always the chance that they could be out there somewhere. So you always went to the toy shop with a little bit of kind of that hunter mentality, even as a little kid. Will Swoop be there? Will this time of the four Dinobots, if I hunt through the shelves and right at the back, maybe Swoop will be there? Because he was another one that wasn't released. Um, so there was that element to it that now fills me with a little bit of kind of it's a fond memory and a little bit of nostalgia. I would also say that I remember the original toys. I don't know if you ever collected G1. Are you old enough to have collected G1?
I am not old enough. I was not born when Generation 1 was going on, but there was a time in the past that I did collect Generation 1 toys. So I am familiar with the originals as well as the reissues that they've done.
Do you like the packaging? One aspect of the packaging, G1 packaging, was that you got these little catalogs with them
Mhm.
that basically showed you what was available in the line. And for some reason, probably because they didn't want to reprint a UK version of those catalogs, um, it would show the figures that weren't released. So I remember my friend had one of these catalogs, and it showed the deluxe triple changes and the deluxe Insecticons, which never came out in the UK. So I kind of coveted that catalogue and I would look at it in the playground whenever I could get my hands on it, kind of thing. So that's a long winded way of saying, yes, frustration that I could never get them, but also a little bit of fun as well in terms of will I be able to at some point.
Right. And so what is it like now in your adulthood having the capability and the money to collect those toys that you were never able to get?
Well, it's massively, it's a massive privilege, and I try not to ever take it for granted because some people haven't got the money to indulge in something like this kind of frivolous hobby. You know, the way people talk about it online sometimes, I do think some people lose sight of the fact that it is a hobby, it is a sideline, it's something that should be enjoyed and kind of, and if you're lucky enough to have the money to do it, then that's great. In terms of actually being able to get them, I've just been bowled over. It was when Hasbro started doing these very G1 accurate sculpts. I think it was the Studio Series 86 that started it all, and now they've come through the main line, the legacy, what has been the main line for a while, the legacy toys, and those G1 characters are turning up there, and you know, to get a full line of them with such articulation, such detail, that blow the originals out of the water. That's all I've ever really wanted. I've kind of been I've enjoyed Transformers on the sidelines, like I played the War for Cybertron games, loved those. I think I've watched all the Bayverse movies. So I've kind of been aware of it ticking along. I've seen some of the cartoons, but I've never dived deep. And kind of in my heart of hearts, what I've been kind of waiting for is just, come on, just do G1, just do G1, and I'll jump back in, and I can get involved. And as a result of that, my kind of interest is widening already. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm getting these things that I really like, the G1 era, which is my era. I think sometimes people think when you're focused on one particular aspect of Transformers or one era of Transformers that there's a value judgment being made there. Like these days, we can't like one thing without hating the other. I don't believe that. I've never felt like that, and I think there are a lot of people who don't feel like that. So, an interest in one era of Transformers is not dismissing others. It's just kind of saying, well, that's the thing that I remember. That's the thing that I love the most and connect with. But I'm kind of peripherally interested in all the different eras. So um, yeah, they started doing those G1 focused modern toys, and as a result, I've started getting more interested more broadly, like watching your videos all about the Skybound. Yeah, I've ordered my copy of the first 6 issues,
Oh,
the like
great.
the album,
The
because
volume one, yeah.
the volume one, and it's that I think it's the first 6 issues.
It is, yes. Yeah, volume issue 12 comes out soon next month, or no, this month in September, and then in November they'll release volume 2, which is issues 7 through 12.
Yeah. And I think just one thing leads to another. The idea of, because I've been aware of IDW and that they've been messing around with G1 for a while and doing these kind of different interpretations of it. But then this Skybound thing starting, and as it's starting, you can kind of jump on board and get more involved. It's always hard to jump into something after it's been going years. But then, like, and they're doing really interesting things, like Transformers 1 looks really interesting. Fully animated movie, that's not been a thing for a long while. I know the cartoons have been on TV, but I don't think they've done a full animated movie for a while.
But yeah, this is the first time to see a fully animated Transformers film since the original one in '86, which is I think a big moment for many fans.
Yeah, and I think it's the kind of thing that will connect with kids who are completely new to Transformers. This could be their first Transformers. It's called Transformers 1. It's a starting point. But for someone like me, I can see aspects in there that I really click with as well. The fact that it's all about the Transformers. I've always felt like that. I kind of, the human stories have always been there from the very beginning in Transformers, how they interact with us, the Witwikis and so on. But I've always liked those stories that focus more on the Transformers than the humans. Um, because the Transformers are the exotic, interesting aspect of Transformers for me. So the idea, it's all on Cybertron. It's all about the Transformers. They have these rich, deep personalities. You see Megatron and Optimus Prime sitting on what looks like a junk heap, just chatting because they're going to be assigned to the garbage disposal thing. It's like, yeah, that's what I want to see. I want to see them, the
That kind of
Transformers,
background.
as fully rounded characters. But
Yes.
that's a very, I can't even remember your original question. Something about
That's okay.
Perceptor.
No, I think you took the question even to such a better place to talk about how even not just in the Transformers fan base, but in today's world and society, that there is kind of this feeling of, well, if you like A, then you must dislike B. And that's such a I think it's become such a common idea, and I think it's one that doesn't need to be around. You have so many people like, oh, well, hey, I like Generation One, and then everybody thinks, oh, so you hate everything that came after it. No, and I think that's what's so great about Transformers is that there's so many continuities and there's so many different kind of pockets. Well, moving forward from that, we talked a little bit earlier about the Studio Series toy line, especially the '86 kind of subline that they started recently. Well, I guess it wasn't recently, a few years ago. And I wanted to ask you, what was the decision like for you that first time you decided to get into that? Because obviously that's a very different collecting experience rather than collecting reissues or Generation One figures. To decide, hey, I'm going to start collecting modern figures. What was that decision like for you? And what I would also say, what figure specifically made you decide I'm going to go for Studio Series?
Yeah, I think it was little baby steps. I remember starting to think I would like to start collecting toys again. I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm gonna collect toys. I like having them on the shelves. I
Yes.
like being surrounded by them. They're like art to me. So I'm gonna collect toys. That was the
Mhm.
first step. So I started picking up a lot of companies seem to have jumped on this retro and reissue. That's why I called my channel Retro and Reissue.
Mhm.
Um, Strategy at the moment. So Ghostbusters, TMNT have been doing it a lot. So I was picking up those, and obviously Transformers is in there. But when it comes to Transformers, like you say, there's so much choice. There's not one toy line. There's all different kinds of iterations. So when I started getting into it, I thought, well, I need to be collecting Transformers. Which Transformers do I collect? First, I went for those reissues, very G1 accurate packaging, because my idea was, and they've stopped doing them now, but they released Astro Train, Blaster, Soundwave they just look like G1 basically. And I thought
Mhm.
I can put them on my shelves and they'll look nice, another display item. But it gradually became clear that that was a very limited line, and there's not much you can do with that. I think a
Mhm.
little bit of it might have been to do with YouTube. It's like I'm doing these YouTube videos about these toys I'm picking up, but I'm not taking them out of the package. What am I doing?
Right.
I can't create content around these static objects that never get opened. What can
Mhm.
I collect that I can talk about and show off? So I decided. Are you aware of the Hasbro's Red robot enhanced
Yes.
design line? I picked up those first because I thought that's G1, very G1 accurate. I'm G1 guy. They look like the cartoons, and I picked up three of them and took them out and put them on display. And I don't know at what point I realized. Well, there was one thing they weren't doing it accurately. Bumblebee was as tall as Optimus Prime, which I
Yeah, he was
didn't
pretty
like.
big. Yes.
This is like, right, I may have made a mistake here. But then something else happened. I had this realization that they're Transformers. I've picked the one line of Transformers that doesn't transform.
Yeah.
There's something missing from this. Why did I like Transformers in the first place? Oh, because they transform. And it hadn't occurred to me. It just hadn't occurred to me. Like, you forget those things that first attract you to something. You just have this fond memory, some it's based in nostalgia. I like these things, but you don't examine what it is you liked about them. And once I had those figures representing the characters, but they couldn't transform, it clicked for me. Well, I
Mhm.
need to choose something else. And that was the point at which I started looking closer at Studio Series 86, and it became clear to me, oh, this is a really accurate line. This has everything you want. Um, it's an active, vibrant interesting line that they're adding to all the time because it's closer to the main line. And yeah, that was it really. And I can't remember who I picked up, Blur and Cup first, and transforming those and seeing how relatively accurate they were. I was hooked at that point, and then kind of just the interest has expanded since then.
But moving on from talking about studio series, kind of looking more into the YouTube space, you often mention in some of your videos and while talking that you feel like YouTube is kind of a platform where only tiered list videos can perform well. You've talked
Yeah.
about this, and I wanted to ask if you find any challenge or any frustration in kind of feeling like you have to stick with that system with making your videos, top tens or top fives.
No, I it's not frustration, and I kind of at the minute I'm liking the structure of it. It gives you a
Hmm.
focus and a shape to the videos, and I think if I had to guess, no expert, but I think that is why they work. Top tens, lists. I think people know what to expect when they go in. I'm going to be watching a countdown of something, so I stay watching until I see what's at number one. Kind of is the most basic
Hmm.
analysis of it. So
Right.
rather than feeling frustrated and hemmed in, it's kind of giving me a framework to approach videos, and I've
Hmm.
never really had that before. So far from it, and I like having something to talk about, which sounds weird, but when I first started, obviously I was a new collector. You only had, and I was focusing not like yourself on the fiction and analysis of character and stories, which is fantastic, by the way. I'm really enjoying your analysis.
Thank you.
I need to I need to read the comics so I can catch up.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm liking that structure. Yeah, when I started, I didn't have a lot of toys to talk about. So I was kind of limited in terms of what the kinds of videos I could do. I could do a review, I could do an unboxing, I could talk about a specific figure. Because I'm focused on the toys, I couldn't think of a lot of other stuff to talk about. And so there's been a big gap for me from when I started, and almost like a 18-month, 2-year hiatus where I've done nothing but upload silly short videos. And then I turned around about 6 months ago now and looked around and realized oh, hold on, I've got loads of characters now because I'm 100% in on the collecting. I've got a lot more to talk about. So then I was like, well, I can do a top 10 of all these figures. I can talk about them as a collection because I've got a collection. So that's where the top tens idea, it's not even an idea, just the opportunity. As creators, we often tell ourselves we do it for the love of the topic, and we do it for the love of challenge. We do it because it's good to be creative. But I think, we've got to be honest and say we're creating things to be seen by people. And it's very demoralizing if you're creating videos without a structure, and and people don't know what the video's about, so they're not finding them and you're not getting the feedback from people. So any kind of format of video that works and that I can do to people's satisfaction and they actually want to watch, I'm very positive about that. I don't feel hemmed in by that format. No, not at all.
do you ever find any struggle? You talk about, we create because creating is good, and I agree. Having kind of an artistic outlet, whether that be creating videos or, painting, playing music, things like these. Obviously, we do this for ourselves to get these ideas out, but it's also because, like you said, we want to be seen. And I think a part of us also, we want to have a community to discuss these things. But in a world with, social media and very specifically with YouTube, do you ever find it difficult to create what the creation between what you as a creator want to make and what will perform well on a platform? Do you ever find a struggle kind of balancing those two?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it would be nice. I've talked to YouTube friends in a different space, in the gaming space. I remember having these conversations and kind of like the game that people come to their channel for is not doing it for them anymore. They want to they want to play something else on their channel, but then the viewers don't come. So it can be frustrating that you can't always do exactly what you want to do. But like I did that video not long ago about the fact that reviews on my channel don't seem to do very well, or they kind of um, they do okay, but not as well as, say, the list videos and stuff.
Right.
So that could be frustrating if you really want to do reviews. But I'm not kind of married to that idea. If that's not what people want to see, then I'm kind of the mindset at the minute that, okay, well, I'll try and get the most out of the things that people do want to watch and the formats people do enjoy. Because although we're creative people and you want to express yourself, the audience is really important.
Hmm.
It, what the audience want and understanding the audience and being able to provide the kind of thing that they want, I think, is a skill.
Hmm.
Um, it's a hard thing to learn because I think we all start with this sense of I just want to be expressive and creative, and hopefully people will appreciate what I'm doing, and that can happen. And people do discover success that way, but um, it is also about the audience and kind of providing a creative service, if that makes sense. You're kind
Yeah.
of there to serve the audience.
Hmm.
And if the audience is telling you one thing very clearly, we don't like this video as much as we like this video. Who am I to argue? That's fine. That's fine. As long as you're watching, as long as I can create something that you like to watch.
Well, hey, I wanted to move off into a lightning round. I try and do one of these every episode. And what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you 3 questions about Transformers. And what I'd like you to do is to try not to think about the answer too much and just answer as quickly as you can. The first name or idea that comes into your head, that should be your answer. And then once we do those 3 questions, we can kind of discuss that. Sound good?
That sounds great. Yep.
All right.
Concentrating.
Okay, so the first question is, what is the most underrated Generation 1 figure in your opinion?
Gears.
Gears. Oh, that is a wow, I was not expecting that. Okay. Well,
I
then
don't know
number
why
2 is
you said whatever comes to mind, and he just
no,
popped into my head for some
that's
reason.
good. Well, in that case, what is the most overrated Studio Series figure in your opinion?
Oh, Ultra Magnus.
Ultraman. Oh, okay, we're definitely gonna have to talk about that. And then the last question is, if you could have one character from Generation 1, doesn't have to be from the movie, have a Studio Series figure, who would it be?
A Scrounge from the comics.
Oh, okay. I
Uh,
was not expecting that one either.
the
So
little
Gears,
Blaster's little friend who dies in a
yeah.
lava pool.
So Gears is your underrated figure for Generation 1. Why do you
Yeah,
think he's underrated?
I don't know if he is. This is lame. I don't know why I said Gears. I haven't heard many opinions of Gears, to be honest. And I guess I said Gears because less because of that figure, because I think the figure is pretty good. I'm just looking, sorry, I'm looking around at
No,
him
it's
to
okay.
remind myself. I think I chose Gears because of the fiction. I was thinking of him as an underrated Autobot in the cartoon, who's a little grumpy guy who doesn't get much screen time. He has one episode all to himself, which is a crazy episode.
Your most overrated Studio Series figure is Ultra Magnus. I want to hear this because I have not yet collected a copy of
Uh-huh.
Studio Series Ultra Magnus because I have a mortgage to pay. I can't afford to pay scalper prices, but I want to hear why you think he's overrated.
I don't know. Again, I don't know if he is. It's more the sense of the figure is great, but articulation, he looks fantastic. He just needs to be like a third smaller.
Ah,
And
okay.
it kind of like the greatness of that figure, I look at it myself and I rate it very highly, but I can't get away from the fact that he's just taller than Grimlock and he dwarfs everyone else. It's such a shame. And some people say he's not oversized. There are shots in the movie where you can kind of convince yourself, okay, he is huge, but
Generation 1 didn't have the greatest track record, though, with
no,
scale.
no, you just choose which still of the movie you want to base your
Yes.
opinion on, really.
Well, then the last one you said was the character from Generation 1 that you wish had a Stereo Series figure, and that is Scrounge. And I really want to hear this because, to my knowledge, Scrounge had, I believe, one figure. I think it was in Combiner Wars. He was a repaint of Combiner Wars Cosmos. So why is he
No.
the character you want?
He really that story really affected me as a kid. It seemed so brutal and so real, and it really made me connect to the transform stakes. You know, in storytelling, it's all about the stakes and what could the characters lose. Until you get to the movie, was kind of tame. You know, anything can happen to a transformer in the G1 cartoon, and they pick themselves right back up. They get shot, they're right back up the next scene. Nothing seems to have any long-term effect on the characters. So to see a transformer die in the fiction made a huge impact.
If I recall correctly, is it Straxus who ends up killing him?
Does Straxus?
I vaguely recall that in
I know
the comics that Straxus might have killed him.
Straxus definitely does some killing, but I
Yes,
can't
yeah.
remember if he actually ends Scrounge or if Scrounge just melts. It's
Well, I know that
one of
they
the
have some time together, and the fact that we are getting that comic accurate Straxus, you know, you never know. We may get a Scrounge. I mean, they made Flame and Emirate
Zaron.
Zeron, thank you, Emirate Zeron. Who knows? Maybe they'll make a Scrounge. They've done stranger figures, I think, in the past. I, for one, truly think that we're in a golden age, especially for figures, for Transformers figures. There's just so much to choose from, and so many different fan bases and continuities are being catered to, which I think is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Who knew? Who you knew 2 years ago, 3 years ago? It would. I don't know. I guess it worked with me, and I can only think that whatever that trend was, that focus that got me back in, has worked more broadly, and they're seeing it work, and they're just expanding upon it.
Well, Retro, thank you so much for hopping on the show. I always want to give this last kind of few minutes of the show to allow you to tell the people who are watching this what you've got going on your channel, if you have any projects coming up that you kind of want to tease, or just what they can find from you in your side of YouTube.
Yeah, I'm on at Retro and Reissue. Retro and Reissue is the name of the channel on YouTube. So yeah, head over to the channel. There, I'm doing list videos, top tens. Those are going to keep coming. Working on one at the minute that's kind of more of a bigger one of those that's more time intensive, but I'm hoping people are going to like that. And then just exploring, like yourself, trying different things. Like I've done a very relaxed kind of let's unbox some figures. I don't want to do anything complicated. So hopefully if people just want to hang out and chat, that's kind of a chatty, longer style of video. And really I'm just experimenting. So yeah, if you're a Transformers fan, you don't have to be G1 fan to enjoy the channel, hopefully.
Well, Retro and Reissue, thank you so much for being on the show. It was great to have you and hear your thoughts on all the different topics we thought. And thank you, everybody, for watching yet another issue of the series, and I'll see you guys on the next one.